Karibu. Introduce. Welcome to the show, Buddha. This is Ambukisha. Kariuki Kinyunye as usual. And leo niko na guest mwingine, former, what do I call you? Former what? No, roommate in college, Buddha, like 5 years, Kimathi. Then now still friends, 15 years.
15 years.
So welcome to the show, Buddha.
Thanks. Mimi naitwa Wambugu. Yeah, tumejua na mse hiyo miaka yote tulisoma pamoja campus, that is undergraduate, and then afterwards we've kept in touch and we've been friends for that long. Yeah.
Nice. So leo tunajaribu kutell story ya Ivan. Like as though mse tujui, because the person watching doesn't know you like I know you. Doesn't know you like some of our other mutual friends know you. So nimejiuliza leo ni as I was trying to prep for this show, if Ivan died today, God forbid, I need you around for many years. I need you for many years around. But like if Ivan died today, what story would we want the world to know about Ivan? But more importantly, what story would Ivan himself want the world to know about him?
Well, I think it's just about just not much into detail about what I do. I think it's just the basics of life. I think it's on to zenye everybody can share. Unaona juu kuna there's an aspect yenye kila mtu akona capacity ya withhold and what they can share. So I think it's just basically what I believe in, what is my outlook of life, what I believe in, the things that I love doing, ama vitu kama hizo, maybe the few mistakes zenye nimefanya zenye kila mtu make, where I've been, where I am, and probably where I'm looking forward to reach in terms of maybe career or what, finances, my impact on my family's life, my friends' life, maybe even professionally. Even one day, you personally once had ambitions of running for political office. I don't know kama bado uko nazo.
No.
But if
I don't know.
If you ever get there, hata mimi maybe someday, juu tumeanza kuona like young people getting being given very very prestigious political offices kama ile jana that young ODM leader from Kilifi, and he just alianza tu kama student leader, and sasa jana aliappointiwa kama PS, which is a very very high office. So nobody ever knows which direction they might go. Unaweza sema kitu fulani saa hii sitaki kukua ati mwanasiasa ama nini, even if not being a politician per se, but being in that circle of politics, because nakumbuka tukiwa kwa Sam tukasema vile how much you thought like you were insulated from some of the things zina affect anybody until your spouse actually showed you how it is actually impacting you. Na hapo ndipo kaanza kurealize that politics is indeed a part and parcel of life yetu. Yeah, so hata mimi at some point I used to think by the virtue of having worked in electoral management, so I used to think like these are very dirty side of life yenye siwezi waitaka interact nayo, but being in that space for now, I think from 2012 up to now, so almost 13 years, I now understand the intricacies of that side of the world, and nikaanza kujiambia I might find myself on that side one day, even if not at the highest level, maybe at an advisory level or at influencing policy kitu kayo. It's something I would want to try and see, because I believe there is so much that is not going right in the country right now, and I believe we still need the right kind of leaders to take this country forward. Yeah, I believe that's my outlook of things.
Thanks. So to bring along, you're one such leader. By the way, I've always known you to be a guy mwenyako. You have an outlook of life that I find, I would not call it socialist, but I would say your social connection, especially all the way back, you have a social sensitivity. I think that's the word I would use. You have a social sensitivity, in my opinion, which makes you very attuned to what's going on in the community around you. Whatever that community happens to be, it just happens that when I met you, the community that we both shared at that time was our fellow classmates, schoolmates, guys we went to college with. But I did notice, like, there's a deep social sensitivity, and you seemed to be able to just sort of bring, I think, some of the best assortment of people together. And yeah, I've always found that some of the best people just want to congregate around you. Like, yeah, I think that's the word to use. But I've never found you to pontificate on anything really. But if today you are pontificating and you wanted to get everybody to believe what you believe, what would that be? What would you have us believe that even believes really deeply?
Well, okay, I don't know much about, that your perspective, vile many characterize as believing so much in socialism. Is that how you put it?
I've said you have a social sensitivity. That's why I said I will not use the word socialism. That's what I was going for, that social sensitivity, that sense of what's going on.
Okay, I think, of course, there are those things that I used to believe in growing up, maybe from 0 to maybe 15, the beginning of high school. And then, of course, there are views that changed past post-election violence, 2007, past high school, coming into campus, because ile journey nimewalk, which is ideally not much different from what we've gone through, because other than the fact that we have had slightly different circumstances as upbringing, I believe we've gone almost through the same path academically. Maybe place yenye tu ili differ ni interests zetu kwenye zilienda after tumemaliza. So I believe when you observe me and you tell me that that's how you think of me, I believe hata mimi, looking inwards, I believe I still have the same sort of ideals. The ones that I have right now seemingly may change, although part of them may change, because growing up, I didn't exactly, I don't know, would I call it privilege? But I sort of grew in a home with two working parents, and of course, initially we were not around here, so we moved from coast. We first left them there, sisi tukakuja huku, so tukaachwa na cousin yangu
huku Nyeri.
Yes, in Nyeri now. Sasa wabaya sasa. We grew up just me and my sister, and it's my cousin who was bringing us up. And then as my parents were trying to work with the transfer, the time sasa kulikuwa na El Nino, and around that time ndio sasa now I started realizing the other side of life. Unajua hiyo time nilikuwa mdogo sana, like 1, 2, 4 around 4, give me 5, 6 hivi. And coming here, I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know Kikuyu, I didn't know English. The only thing nilikuwa naongea tu ni Kiswahili, of course. Nikijua kioja, watu hiyo na kucheka, sijui nini, wale watu wametoka baharini, and like they're speaking Kikuyu, I can't get it. Then now going to school, having not ever studied Kizungu at all. So there was so much, there was that culture shock ya kutoka kukuja huku. And now around the same time sasa ndio I've not even been used to such kind of weather. Unajua uko ni joto tu, and then when coming here and there's so much rain. I think that for the better part of that year, if I'm not wrong, if I remember correctly, 98. So so much rain, and I remember sometimes I could ningeanguka kwa mama kwa matope, na hata mko na uniform ya shati fulani ya white checked. Alafu unafika nyumbani, hiyo time hata nyumba yetu iko imaliza kujengwa, so yeah, I think that sort of, that's when I think I now started looking at life in a more clear way, unaona. So coming from sort of unajua Kwale is a very very hot place, alafu poverty in excess, these people are just so too poor, but the people there are just surprisingly it's a very very safe place. There hakuna watu wakwangi wamefence, hakuna nini, hakuna the kind of systems that exist in say, maybe in central Kenya, vile watu put up high perimeter wall fences for the security huko kunanga. So at least now that's another aspect niliona ikakuja huku ikaanza kuchange, where you used to like seeing people just interact freely and not getting so worried, and then everybody like is socializes with their nona. Even if you walk down the streets even up to date, whether it's Mombasa, whether it's Malindi, everybody is friendly with the other. Utapata hata mtu akujua na kusalimia tu kama ya kuja tu hapa Nyeri and it's like it's very rare kupata like mtu ako na shughuli na mwingine, and even these days hata unapatanga like ukipita tu kwa streets ni una realize this, okay, I don't know, there are not so many in Nyeri, but kama Nairobi, these beggars who they on the streets and we don't pay much attention to them, and down there you can't find such an incident. No. People do care about each other to some degree, and probably that's when I sort of got that in me, that indeed you have to see people so that they can also see you na ndio uweze kwa impact. So I believe that's where that journey started, and of course now going through an 8-year primary school system in a private school, it's quite a different environment. Of course, if somebody had to ask me, would I want maybe probably a child to be taken through that system, I would say yes and no, depending on zile values mtu ako nazo and what they believe in, because I believe I don't know if schools have relaxed such kind of environment, but during our times we tulisoma with so much pressure, and what the system calls disciplining kids, I don't think it, partly it could have worked, but in the long run I do believe it did some quite a considerable level of harm psychologically to kids, because even most of the people I schooled with, so ukiuliza unakumbuka kwenye tulikuwa, what do you think about that, and they have a very very negative perception about that place, because of the punishment, because of the pressure. You know, you're just a kid, 5 to 13 years. I don't think it's an age ya kusubject mtoto to like as if ako advanced levels of learning, unaona, because your time mtu ana learn to basics, and I think hapo ndipo naonanga, okay, I don't know, I haven't interacted with CBC that deeply. So the current system of education, where ina emphasize more on equal student centered as opposed to sasa yetu hizi tulisoma ikiwa teacher centered. We are looking for a teacher anataka nini, mwalimu anataka results, anataka watu wanapita, anataka the glory. You go even to high school, all schools could think of we want to be in top 10, we want a mean score of sijui what naona juu masomo ilikuwa imekuwa centered on kenye mwalimu anafanya as opposed to kenye mwanafunzi anafanya, naona. And some of these changes in the education system, like now trying to do away with punishment of that kind, it could be both a positive and a negative thing, because while it removed that aspect of violent teachers, ikasasa ikaleta the aspect of nini. Now, who is responsible for disciplining kids? Is it the parent? Is it the teacher? Given that the highest percentage of a child's life in a year inakuanga na interaction yake na mwalimu, unaona. So how do you discipline this kid and still ensure nini? Where is that balance that mtu yeye retain discipline, but pia mjafanya nini? You're not breaking the law and you're not harming this kid psychologically. you're not inducing trauma, vitu kama hizo. Yeah, so it's that going through that phase and then on to high school. High school now it's even worse because now it's a public school and I'm hundreds of miles away from now the buffer of or the protection of the people I call family. So they're all alone and now you have to learn how to navigate life. I think that was the first ever time like I traveled by myself for hundreds of kilometers, and now being in a situation whereby I know nobody because that's Nyanza and sikuwa najua mtu yote, so nienda undoku hapo, it's just you and your thoughts and your bag and your box and your small properties, and now navigating that path by myself. I think that was also an eye-opening episode in my life. And of course came post-election violence and some adjustments had to be made. I found myself in a different system, and I think that is what sort of changed fundamentally how I view life even up to date. And yeah, it was a good opportunity for me now to come back because now I was nearer home and now I was around a community that was, I would say the level of familiarity was very, 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 very high because it's just in Murang'a and Abade is just there, and like 90% of kids there, they are from ni Wakikuyu. Teachers actually, at all of them, over 90% of teaching and non-teaching staff ni Wakikuyu pia. So now there's that familiarity, and then now it's a different system. There is more freedom. There is more freedom, not just how we live as students, even in the academic sphere. Like now you have to learn to navigate by yourself. No, because teachers don't hunt you. They don't force you to do things. No. So your freedom, it can be both a good thing and a bad thing, in that if you're not the self-driven kind of person, utajipata ukilag behind na pia performance inakuwa affected. But if you are self-driven, ukijua kwenye unatoka, inasaidia mtu, like ina fuel that fire in you ku work hard na ndio uweze kuachieve whatever anybody wants to achieve. And now of course transitioning to higher education. Now came, do I call it the second culture shock? The third one, because the second of course now was coming from an extremely militant environment academically to now a more relaxed environment, now my second high school. And now the third one now was now finding myself in a private university in Nairobi.
Third culture shock.
The third one. I don't even call it the third. The first one was now moving from what? From Coast to Nyeri.
The second one was going to high school, and
the second one
different
was
high schools.
Yes.
And you didn't mention them. Ningekuwa nimeenda mashule umeenda, ningekuwa nimeringa by my wife tells me kiburi yangu inamkanga asubuhi, inapigwa pasi, inashainiwa, just waiting for an opportunity to come out. You went to some of the best high schools in the country.
Well, I think there was a phase whereby that thing was in everybody. Everybody who's gone to Maseno School, everybody who has gone to Njiris, everybody who's gone to Strathmore, everybody who's been to KCA, like there was a time like that meant too much. No. You see, with time I don't know whether it's maturity ama ni outlook your life huwa ina change. Of course it's a very big deal having gone through such, because in kitu ili shape fundamentally everything even I do up to date. It is courtesy of the values that I acquired from Maseno, from Jiris, from Strathmore, from Kimathi, all those places I've been to.
And we'll come to that. I want us to come to that just specifically because you've mentioned values. I'd like for us to just come and just pick some of the values from the different places. But you're on a track. And I wanted to hear, because you had laid out for us the first culture shock, the first major. I know there have been many, but the first major was Ukwala to Othaya. Then high school, post-election violence, moving from Maseno to Njiri, and being able to contrast those two different approaches to secondary education. Then the third one was post-high school. You start off Strath.
Yes.
And there were culture shocks, Strath, and then transitioning into where we met.
Yes.
Just let me see that. It's the flow and the story. So welcome back. Took a short break. So for me, it's the flow of the story, because it's a really nice story and you're telling it really well. So, and I like the way you're telling it, even the dramatizing, the way you're using your whole body, baka hands to tell the story. So just, yeah. Now, pause for Edie to cut. We are back. You're telling us about the third culture shock. Umeingia college Strath. What's that like?
Of course, it's a completely new environment. Of course, it's my first time kuishi mtaani. Rather, being in the city was the places I had been to up to then. Predominantly zilikuwa tu, there wasn't that. Of course, I was always in school and maybe at home. So hii ndio mara ya kwanza like nilikuwa nimekaa mtaani kabisa for the first time. And nimekuja, I've come to an institution yenye ina nini, where the cream de la cream of society wanasomea, unaona, the kids of politicians, kids of ambassadors, kids of who is in society,
financially speaking,
of course. Not that we are any lesser, but sisi unajua we are from the middle class. So getting there now, interacting with all these kinds of kids, and it blows off my mind. I'm like a kid 18, 19 anakam shule na nini na gari ya budake, unaona, and sisi ni watu wa kutembea. So well, it's nini sort of of course it's affect mtu me the first few days, because on Fridays you hear all these kids making all these big plans. Oh, zi tunafaa unaenda kupiga sherehe sijui wapi, sijui they have all these big fancy meetups or events they attend. And mimi, of course, by then I can't go to any of those things. I don't even know where these places are. No, this is my first time, so I first need to familiarize myself with the city. I also need to familiarize myself with how to deal with these people. And of course, the first thing the institution took us to was during the induction, orientation. Ile kitu nilifanya ni realize yenyewe this is real now, this culture shock is real, ni penye like they've brought in these people to teach us how to do modern dining, unaona, like sijui kutumia cutlery set nini, like you're being told how to do that, unaona. And even when I think of orientation yetu tukio first year hapa Kimathi,
chozi na kwanga ile side.
Buddha, there was nothing like that, man. Yeah. There was nothing like that. And now this is you know, it's different. It's a different level. And all these kind of opportunities huko, you learn nini. On Fridays there are so many clubs and so many co-curricular activities. Kuna chess, kuna nini. There's a whole new world that you're opened up to. Those recreative activities that are not exactly available for the average kid.
Like which? I don't know them because I've never been to those places. So I've only been chess at least I've seen in movies. What else did you
like
find?
now a proper chess club, a proper Scrabble club in an institution, naona like music instruments, learn kucheza vitu kaa hizo, naona other than maybe the few institutions that teach those ones, like now for recreation purposes, I don't think many institutions have them. Hata sisi huku Kimathi hata ilikuwa kweli.
I don't remember. I never saw.
We did 5 years without seeing some of these things, naona, and now there they are, naona, and now you're there like so excited. Now in my head I want to do all these things, and but hakuna hiyo time, naona, and I also want to I want to learn the whole of Nairobi. I want to know what street is what street, naona. So in my mind I have so many things to learn and so many things to do and so many people to interact with, but there's not that much time. And then again, Strathmore is a different kind of high institution of learning. It is not as, there are different kind of rules there. There are rules for dressing, there are rules for how you conduct yourself within the institution. It's not like most of the public universities. So nile unapata, now having come from a similar environment in high school, like not again, no, nah. So here I'm testing my second freedom. Now after primary, after the second high school I went to, no. So here I'm telling myself, now I want to relax, nataka kuishi, no. And then here the system is telling me, no, doesn't work like that here, no. Here, in as much as this is another institution of higher learning, it's just an extension of what you went through in high school, no. Because you have to do things by the book, and so many rules, and they sort of restrict you from wanting to live as you would wish to at that level. And of course, that year went by. I learned so much. In fact, that is the year and I make most of my staying in Nairobi. I got to learn the whole of it. I went to virtually every corner of Nairobi. And now coming back, so that now I start my undergraduate. Now it's different. Yeah, Kimathi is worlds apart from what you experience there. You know, yeah. I've told you now you're coming from learning how to use cutlery and seeing kids of who is doing society drive themselves to school, and you're just there like kale kachwani kale kamia kalanchi tipo uko nako, and then you have to walk back to the hostel. People are planning big events over the weekend, but usienda mahali juu maana una yodo, unaona. And again, you can't enter those circles because they are not for, okay, or rather I used to tell myself they are not for people like me, no, because I didn't have such kind of means. I hadn't had those kind of opportunities, so I couldn't get into interact with those people. Only maybe tukiwa class, tukitoka we are not the same, no. Tuko tu the same tukiwa class juu hapo nini, we are subject to the same kind of nini environment, no. Tunafanya mtihani, tuna attend lectures, but the moment everyone walks out of that class, now that difference becomes real, no. Because there's the university cafeteria with extremely high prices for food stuff. Like so unapata ile do yenye naweza kula maybe lunch na supper, kuna day anakula like anaitisha only one thing na hiyo do, unaona. So hiyo ni place tu unapitia, unaiona unapita tu ukiendanga huko nje. Kuna place ilikuwa inaitwa Siwaka, tulikuwa na kukudishi huko nje. So now those differences now they become very real, and of course they affect me to a very, very great extent that I want to be like these people, but I can't be like these people, no. And of course by then I'm still very young, I'm 18, so there's so much I don't know. I'm still trying to learn, no. So of course now that is my initiation into adulthood now, like proper one. Yani, it's the world introducing you, telling you, okay, yeah, here things don't don't run the way you think they do, no? And yeah, I think from there on, that's when I started seeing the world for what it really is. That it is, they're both good systems, they're bad systems, they're merit-based systems, and of course, they're exclusive spaces for people. So you just have to like identify what. Lazima kwanza ujijue, ndio ujue where you can be welcomed and where you're not welcome, no? And of course, that reality hit hard that year. So hard, eh? Hiyo mwaka.
Yeah.
Hiyo mwaka nakwambia like it took me a very very long time to internalize some of those things. But it was a good lesson, and a lesson I took with me as I moved along my other levels of learning and also life. Of course, coming to do my undergraduate degree hapa Kimathi, that's a bit different, given that now that kind of environment, it isn't there hapa, unaona, as in this public university. So here we mwenyewe ndio unajisukuma, you take yourself. Ukitaka kwenda classes ni shida yako. Huko ukikosa ku attend classes, you are suspended, I don't know, for 3 weeks or something. And hata ikizidi, now it becomes a disciplinary issue. Huko huko ulipata mtu alikuwa anasoma miaka 5 na hata hujafanya nini. If probably have parents, you don't even take the transcripts home, or utaita tu time ya graduation. Huko report card ya progress report for whatever you're doing, whether it's a degree or whatever, ilikuwa inatumia mzazi, hata si wewe. Mzazi like and access. Now sisi zinakwambia it's like it's fine, it's high school but advanced, unaona. Same kind of rules, unaona. Hapa nobody cares kama una attend class, kama unafanya cut.
Yeah.
Si ile school uta graduate ndio kila msee atajua.
Yeah.
Umekuwa tu kilala. Yeah, and yeah, I think so that transition from Strathmore to Kimathi, it was also another interesting transition. And well, I think I enjoyed being in Kimathi so much. The fact that most of the time we what we thought we would take seriously, we didn't, no, because we spent so much time out here as opposed to in there, ndio. And like now, sasa unajua uko like lazima ninge attend classes, lazima ningefanya nini, lazima, yani I had to do everything, because failure to do any of those things had very very dire consequences, not just to me. So when now I came here, or rather I came back to Nyeri kufanya degree. So I think by then I had gotten used to what, of course, after learning the ropes, how to navigate those spaces, now you become used to them. Not that you get to join them exclusively.
This to me is a touchy subject. I know you know. I don't know if it's why you brought it up, but economic inequality is an interesting one for me. And when you share your experience in Strath and how for the first time in your life you came face to face with just how unequal society is, man, that brought up some feelings. And I don't know if you noticed, but I was working really hard to just center myself in the conversation and in your story, and to not get pulled over into all those emotions of just how deeply unfair it can be. And for young kids, 18 years, you've come from what you thought this is, what one would think this is life because it's all you know. And then you come and you start to learn that, oh, there is another half of society that I didn't even know existed. And you start to rub shoulders with them. So that for me personally, it brings up a lot of emotions. So thanks for sharing. And just, yeah, I think some people, there are people from both divides, people from the upper half, people from the bottom, who don't know what the other half looks like, or some don't even live as though they don't even know that the other half exists at all.
Some actually even like get to the end of their lives kama wajai like even ever interacted with that side of life.
Yeah.
And I believe kila mtu anafaa kukuwa na a touch of all aspects of life. Like, okay, even if not experiencing it personally, at least getting an opportunity ya kuinteract na people at all cadres of life, from the very bottom to the very top of the very highest level of society. It is important kila mtu akuwe na, you get to experience people, you learn their lives, what keeps them going, what they stand for, what they do at all these levels, so that now you are able to some of these things zenye tunasema tulipitia culture shocks na nini, so that they become less and less disruptive, because they are very disruptive for young kids. And that is why siku hizi nikiona like parents introducing their kids to some of the things that are sort of, we think of, their for the people at the highest level of society at a very young age, move right, because at least now when those kids now get to those levels of education where those things now start to impact them at a very personal level, psychologically, emotionally, the harm will be like, okay, a kid will be like watu kama sisi hata vitu kama ndege tumepanda tukiwa watu wakubwa, unaona.
Yeah.
And nowadays I'm seeing like people from even normal middle class backgrounds, they are taking their kids on holidays, kuwapandisha ndege at a very tender age. Mtoi hajafika hata 4 years already shaanza kunajua. And I think that's a very important thing, or a very very memorable thing, unaona, because mtu kama ni mtu idem akiwa mdogo hivyo and amepanda ndege akiwa sijui 4 years, unaona, by the time huyo mtu yeye anafika like what, let's say 18, unaona, and girls get into campus, and if they've never had an interaction with probably largesse ama like proper well, that's when unaona they start now trying to get into those spaces. And how do they do that? They now start dating influential men of means, unaona. But now a child, imagine a child like the way you're raising your daughters, there is no way by the time they are growing up, by the time wanafika hiyo level 18, 19, unaona, and probably getting into college, those things, hizo vitu zote watakuwa shafanya, unaona. So there's nothing like ati they will be mesmerized by somebody telling them I'm going to pay for your flight or whatever, unaona. I'm like, come on, hiyo kitu nilipanda nikiwa 3, unaona. I no longer fancy such stuff, unaona. But for a person who had never had those opportunities, that's a big deal. Kupanda ndege mara ya kwanza hata kama mtu mzima, it's a big deal, baby. It's a big deal for either gender. It doesn't matter kama wewe ni msichana ama boy, unaona. If you're doing it for the first time as an adult, unaona, it's intriguing. And now imagine now a child much younger, amepata hiyo opportunity when they are very very young, So by the time they go through the motions of life, they get into to college, they've seen all those things, they've experienced it at even more interesting levels. They've visited an array of countries, they know many places, well traveled, well exposed. So it is no longer something ati yenye unaweza mwambia ati kuja nikufanyie, kuja nikupeleke huko, unaona. Because atakwambia been there done that, unaona. So well, it was interesting for me going through such kind of phase, because it is instrumental, because imenisaidia ku navigate my 20s more smoothly, with more clarity. Of course, mistakes hapa na pale, but it was a good foundation. I believe I needed to go through such spaces so that I can be able to appreciate what every spectrum of life inakaanga, unaona, like be it the lowest level, the middle level, and then now the highest level, how all those levels they operate, what makes them tick, how to behave in such spaces, unaona, because it is not everywhere you can be yourself literally, and I believe that's something, you know, fundamentally from your work. Yeah, so it was a very, very necessary path for me to go through, so that I can also now be able to navigate my young adulthood and now even in my 30s, because we keep getting ourselves in these spaces. We don't always, like, it's not every day that we believe that ati we are in a new environment yenye hatujawahi kuwa. We always get ourselves in new spaces we have been to, no matter how far we go in life. That's I believe that's something you can agree with, that every new day you get to there is a new place you will go to, a new space that you've never been to, and now you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? How do I interact with these people? How do I how am I supposed to behave? What do I say? Ni nini ninafaa kufanya, ni nini sifai kusema? Naona all these sort of confusion and getting into your head and trying to think, okay, I'm in this new place and there are these new people, these highly influential people, and then there is me. Unaanza kujiuliza, who am I? Ama watu wakijiintroduce mimi nitasema mimi nani? Naona do I mention my title? Do I mention what I do? I just say my name and keep quiet? And then, you know, then they are so proud of what they do, and they're so proud of spaces they are in, where they've come from, because probably, you know, and I think it's ultimately it's these differences zinaanzanga at upbringing level, no? Because the kind of confidence utapata maybe kama, let's give a politician's kid will have, it's not the same level of confidence. Mtu mwenye amesomea, like, let's say an international school, sindio? It's not the same level of confidence ya mtu maybe amesomea public primary school nona. There is a whole world of a difference between them, nona, because they get to learn these things right from the very beginning, while some people, like the rest of us, we had to get to learn these things the hard way, nona, by having to like learn either by ourselves, by following what others are doing, by asking, nona. But then they are thrown into, they get access to this system very early on, nona. Because maybe some of these, their parents, they take them to these spaces akiwa tu mdogo. So by the time I turn 5-6, already sijui amelipiwa nini enda akalan sijui public speaking, already they are being organized debates in their schools, nona. And they are being flown out of the country to go and interact with kids of different nationalities and different persuasions and different mindsets. Na hapo nipo confidence yangu inaanzanga kugrow polepole. And sisi yetu ilikuwa tofauti, because you're constantly moving to different environments, no? That sort of transitions kama hizo, I think na believe ziko disruptive in a very fundamental way, because there is no uniformity in terms of, here you meet watu kama, unaona. By the time now you're shifted to a different environment, now you have to learn how to interact in that system afresh. You see the same, no? And like these ones, so unaona, like they have sort of a uniform, or their path in life ni kama inafanana, all the spaces they get to, they sort of interact the same level of people, even if they are completely different spaces, but they are the same people wanaenda kupata, unaona. So there is not so much disruption in terms of now I have to learn something afresh, unaona. Sisi, we have to, as you move from one space to another, you're having to learn maybe a new language, you're having to learn how to interact with people at that level, how to behave, what to say, not to say at that new space. And that is part of the process that sort of in affecting mtu sana sana.
We've had a lot.
Mm.
We've had a lot from all these experiences that have shaped you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Here at Mvukisha, we believe in the power of each of our unique stories. Our tagline is actually own your story. So, because I believe there's power in a story, and when given in the first person, in narrative form, like, I went through this, I saw this, I've seen this in the world, I've had this. There's something powerful in that, no one but you can invalidate your lived experience.
Yeah,
that's what
true.
I believe. Like, nobody but myself can invalidate my lived experience, because I've lived it, I've seen it.
Yeah, and I think that hiyo ndio challenge tunakuanga nayo sana sana, like when somebody is now living the experience, we sort of tend to make this mistake of wanting to insert our perspective in somebody's story. Si ungefanyanga hivi, ama why didn't you think of this and that? Like, you know, that's their story, nona. So, and it's, of course, I've been in that phase whereby I used to think when listening to somebody's story, ama I could think of, okay, if I was, ingekuwa mimi ningefanya hivi na hivi, ama why didn't you do this and that? mbona haikufanyika hivi vingine?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's my ignorance now coming out that is their story. It went the way it went, and they are the way that person is sharing that story, ama vitu amepitia hizo ni amepitia na yeye pekee ndiye anajua vile aliona mambo, ama perspectives za mtu. Unajua, they are primarily shaped by how we navigate life, unaona. However controversial we may think they are, ama however ignorant we may think they are, now we as third parties, that's their perspective, and that's how they rationalize things, that's how they view them. And the best we can do is to give them that grace and accept that, yeah, okay, kumbe ulipitia hivi, ama uliona hivi, ama this is what you believe in, then I think that's valid, no. Getting to that level whereby you start listening to people, like mtu atasema tu kitu, like, okay, yeah, you believe in that na mimi na believe hivi, and we can either find consensus, ama we accept that both perspectives can exist independently and we still get along. It is not easy, because given that tuna exist in a world of high intolerance, whereby if you don't believe in what I believe in, then tunaambiana you can't be my friend, ama she can't be my friend, because we don't believe in the same things, ama we don't do the same things, ama we don't exist in the same spaces, ama we don't go to the same or we don't share sort of circles. We exist in different circles, so you can't join this table, you can't stand here, you can't sit there, you can't say this, ama you shouldn't say that. No. I think we all need to move to a place whereby we can tolerate each other, irrespective of our backgrounds, irrespective of our education levels, irrespective of our perspectives, our persuasions, our personalities. No. Because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We came from wherever we came from. Nasikianga watu wakisema we came from dust to dust, na huko ndiko tu tutarudi. So I think the best we can do for every other human being out here is to give them that grace, that space, that benefit of the doubt, that yeah, you share whatever you're sharing, whether it's right or wrong. It's not up to you kufanya nini, ku act as the superior person or as the judge. No. Let them just share it. Let it not be you being that person who judges them or tries to invalidate what they say. yeah, I believe in the same thing you believe in. So now back to what I was talking about, values.
Yeah, and that sounds like one of those values. So that's why I didn't hurry you at all, because I already had you as you talked about how your own story and your own lived experience has brought you to this place where you see the value of tolerance in the world, and how every lesson that someone has learned through their lived experience, we have to hold it as valid and sacred, because these things that you're sharing with us, you've learned them the hard way through your own life, through your own pain and sweat and tears, and sometimes joy and fun, because I know we've had a lot of that too.
Yes.
Yeah, but now you can tell us more about like what other values have you picked?
Yeah, of course, that's one of the values, tolerance, and having an open mind, because I believe it's a value per se. Most of these values naweza sema zilianza at a much younger stage, in primary school, and there is one notable speech nakumbukanga our principal in primary aliwaipeana. Okay, now he gave this speech about a tap and water coming. When water comes out of a tap, those droplets, there is that by the time ina hit ground, sinachanga shimo kwa nini, kwa that cement, slowly by slowly, but it is out of what nini, as in those droplets, consistent drips over years, that make up that meaning. Yeah, and I've always remembered that speech up to date. Then it's a speech that never goes out of mind about consistency. Like, and he was talking of the sense of working hard and having values that align with yourself. Like, you do the same thing consistently until you get it right. And it's a speech that haijaitoka kwa akili yangu. I always carry it with him, and every time I meet him, I always have to remind him, there's this speech you gave us back in, I think, 2000 or something, and it was, yeah, it has lived, it's been part of my everyday life, that for you to be good at something, you just have to be consistent. Like the way those water droplets, they drop to the ground on that cement consistently until they're able to make some impact on the surface, mpaka zinaweza kudigi na kukat kitu, unaona. It is something that everybody should do, unaona, that you keep those droplets coming until you're able to achieve what you want to achieve, until you're able to make some impact in whatever space you are in or whatever else you're doing, be it family life, be it business, be it work, any space or any place you interact with people and your input is required, be that person who is like those droplets. And for me, I think that speech was a turning point for me, juu ilinisaidia sana kwa maisha. And basically everything I believe I've been able to achieve is because of that speech. And that gentleman was a very, very important part of that journey I've been through. The second set of values niliacquire, they came from our motto in high school. Perseverance shall win through. That's what ilikuwa in state.
That's Maseno.
Yes, Maseno.
Perseverance shall win through.
Yes.
So you've come to Maseno already, having gotten the value of consistency from your primary school principal. Then you come to Maseno.
That's what the motto
shall
is.
win through.
Yes. Of course, by then it didn't make sense before I got admitted, but once I got into the system, sasa ndio niliweza kuelewa why that motto was there. Because back then Maseno had the population of students had just started surging, tuliadmitiwa tukiwa 250 form 1s, so the population of students was 1,000, and it's quite an old school. It's one of the oldest school. Ilianzishwa 1906. So by the time I was in form 1, yes, we actually celebrated 100 years hiyo mwaka. So most of the infrastructure ya shule ni dilapidated, very old buildings. We had only one source of water, ilikuwa inaitwa Jacob's Well. So things were a bit tough, extremely tough huko. And sharing a water source 1000 boys in a place yenye temperatures ni extremely high. So now you can imagine how difficult it is to get even water ya kufanya ni ya kuoga, unaona. So zingine inabidi uamke usiku uoge time yenye watu wengine washalala. So it was a very, very tough environment, but the principal kept on insisting every time we had assembly. Remember the motto that perseverance shall win through. That our main agenda here ni nini? The values that the school is trying to instill, and above all, of course, academic excellence was as at the top. And then what was in the motto? Perseverance. You learn that. It used to say that if you can survive in Maseno, you can survive anywhere in the world. Unaona, hivyo ndivyo alikuwa anatuambia. And one way or another, okay, he made a very strong point, because by the time 4 years zilikuwa zinaisha, my friend, maisha tulikuwa tumepitia huko ni ngumu sana, as in life was just extremely difficult, and pressure ilikuwa mingi, you're on your toes, you just have to move from one point to another, ni kukimbia, kuna kutembea huko, ukipatikana ukitembea you're being punished. Hizo that value system yenye imekuwa inculcated throughout my academic journey and also my professional journey, and also in my other aspects of my life, in my social life, my private life. This summation of values, these values that I've highlighted, from consistency to perseverance, integrity, all these things they nudged me to move into a space that I'm probably was a bit familiar with, because I come from a household of educators, and I felt that nudge to also jump in and share what I've acquired through that journey with other people, especially young learners, because I believe if they acquire a similar set of values or more, it could influence them in their lives, both in their academic journeys and their professional journeys, in one way or another. Vile tu mimi nime benefit to acquire the same values, because most of these, they are acquired from what? Mainly from teachers, from parents, from relatives, from friends, nime interact na wao, and they made me who I am. The person I am today ni juu ya hizo values zilikuwa instilled in me, and I believed so strongly that if I'm able to share the same values with other curious young minds, they might benefit and also get to do the same to other people. So it becomes a multiplier effect, because the world needs a lot of people with strong values, because we are living in a country with a lot of broken systems, and I do believe we need right minds, we need people of integrity, we need people who are focused, we need people who work hard, we need people who believe in the future of this country, and these people can only come from systems that are giving them these values, are instilling these values in them, and the only way to do that is by showing them, by introducing to them and emphasizing these things over and over, because they are important. It is, and they do matter a lot. They are the basic fabric of what will make this country move to the next level, because where we are right now are as opposed to these gaps, the gaps in these values that should be so strongly exhibited in society. And okay, I wouldn't say it's unfortunate because it's a learning curve. We're still a young country, 60 years. And to get to the next phase of probably development or growing this country to the levels we aspire to, we keep talking of Singapore, China, or these first world countries, where they are in terms of technology, where they are in terms of economy, where they are in terms of the engineering. And it can only come from when we first get our values right. No. If we get our values wrong, if we get what we believe in wrong, then we can also not even have the what. We cannot be able to do these things that we think we can do without these values. So I believe very strongly in people acquiring them and people keeping on emphasizing on them and spreading that word to every corner of this country, because I believe so much in the future of this country, and it can only come from we, the young generation, and in the subsequent generation. And what started last year by us, the young generation, agitating for a better country, agitating for the leadership of this country to go back to the basics and govern properly, govern within the constitution, govern within the ethics that we always tout, but we don't practice. They are getting it right, and we have to keep on telling this story, and we have to keep on being consistent and being so bold about it, because this country is not going to be built by any other person other than we, the young people. And subsequently we will grow old. Na ile time tutakuwa wazee, what these other young generations zenye zitafuata, they will only follow what they will have been taught. No? The failures of the current crop of leaders is because of nini? Is probably because of the values they acquired as they grew up. No? And that's why I'm a strong believer in getting it right at the formative stages, so that as we move along, we are passing on the right kind of information, the right kind of things that these young people can do, and they can also subsequently pass on those same things, or even better ones, to hizo generations zenye zitafuata. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a huge believer in values too.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing yours with us. I hope somebody who doesn't know what their values are can borrow one from you, or two, maybe all of them.
Well, it's been an interesting session, sharing my story with my friend here at Wambugu, and I believe everyone should subscribe to this platform, because there's a lot of interesting information, there's a lot to learn, there are a lot of very, very brilliant people who come to this show. And tell your friends to tell their friends and tell their families to be part of this journey. It's a very important.
So thank you guys for watching. Ivan Dirango Wambugu, thank you so much for showing up on the show. Thank you for sharing with us your story. It's a powerful story, amazing lessons, and so many things I could go back into. But the one thing that hit me most powerfully was see people and then see you.
Yeah, true.
So thank you for being a friend. You've always seen me. I've seen you. I still see you. And today I got an opportunity to hear you too. So thank you very much for being on the show. Yeah, we hope as the story unfolds, you keep making us a part of that story by sharing it the way you did today. So thank you.